Judge's Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the best online retailer for Magic the Gathering singles and sealed product, and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game. Now it's time for Judge's Corner.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Judge's Corner. Previously, we covered an episode where we answered a couple of your questions on the air, and we got a lot of positive feedback for that, so I decided let's go ahead and do that again. So today, without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the first question. Raphael asks, my opponent has Nekusar, the Mind Razor, and then plays Wheel of Fortune, forcing me to draw 7 cards. If I draw a Path to Exile before I finish drawing all 7 cards, can I then use it on Nekusar to prevent more damage from it, or do I have to draw all 7 cards at once? Well, when something instructs you to draw multiple cards, what it really means is draw one, draw one, draw one, equal to the number it's telling you to draw. You will draw each card individually, but this happens when the effect starts to resolve, which no one can respond to. So you can't cast Path to Exile until after you've finished drawing everything and resolving the spell. Each of Nekusar's triggers will then trigger on each individual card draw, but those triggers will be held over until a current spell or ability has finished resolving, and then they'll be placed on the stack in active player, non-active player ordering, with any other waiting triggers. Tanya and Marcus ask, what happens when an opponent uses a card like Tormod's Crypt in response to you casting a card with Delve? If they exile your grave in response to you casting Delve, well, then you exiled whatever was left over. Those cards exiled to help with the cost of the spell are long gone, and no one has a chance to respond to get rid of those cards once the spell is announced and put on the stack. This is because no one can interrupt the steps involved in casting a spell until the spell is officially cast, and exiling those cards is part of the 7th and final step. Jaime asks, if Soul Warden is in the graveyard with other random creatures, is it possible to manipulate the stack or the order in which the creatures return with effects like Return to the Ranks, so that Soul Warden triggers on the return of each other creature? And if one of those random creatures is a Johnny Pridemate, can counters be added to it upon returning? If you have a bunch of creatures entering the battlefield at the same time through an effect like Return to the Ranks or Immortal Servitude, they all enter play at the exact same moment, not one at a time. They'll see each other entering at the same time, so you would end up with a good handful of life-gaining triggers from Soul Warden. And if Pridemate is one of the returning creatures, it will also be in play when you gain life, letting it grow for each individual life-gaining trigger. Finally, our last question is, in a multiplayer game, if Johnny casts Worst Fears targeting Timmy, but Spike responds by copying Worst Fears with Reverberate in order to target Timmy, who will end up controlling Timmy's next turn? The answer is Johnny. Let's look at this one a little closer to explain why. The first spell on the stack is Johnny's Worst Fears, and then Spike plays Reverberate right above it. No one else does anything and Reverberate resolves, making a copy of Johnny's spell, also targeting Timmy. This copy also goes on the stack above the original spell, meaning it'll be the first one to resolve, but this is Spike's downfall. Because his spell is the first to resolve, it creates the first control effect on Timmy in Layer 2. Without going into too much detail for now, the layers in Magic are the order in which continuous effects are applied and managed. If 2 competing effects are happening in the same layer, the most recent one will be applied over any others, unless a dependency is involved. We'll explain what a lot of that means in a future episode, but for now, let's use that bit of knowledge to keep answering what happens to Johnny, Timmy, and Spike. So, because the copied Worst Fears resolves first, it ends up being the oldest standing control effect on Timmy once the original spell resolves, meaning Johnny's original spell will override it, because it's the most recent effect taking control of Timmy. So Timmy is Johnny's puppet for the turn, which is probably both Spike and Timmy's worst fear. Well, that's it for our episode. If you have any questions about this episode, or any questions in general, you can always send us an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com, and we'll be happy to answer them. And maybe they'll even be featured in a future episode. And if you have any questions, you can also leave them in the comments below, and somebody from Gathering Magic or myself will be happy to get back to you. And if you like this video, don't forget to actually click like. We'd really appreciate it. It'll help our channel out a lot. Until next time, make sure to shuffle thoroughly, play at a reasonable pace, and have fun.